Hi again, everybody. Welcome back into Game Time right here on Black Hills TV, a weekly rundown of high school football in Rapid City. Our guest this week, Rapid City Stevens head football coach Paul Ferdinand. Coach, you talk about the early part of this year and things haven't been going exactly the way you want. I understand that, but when you look at the last three games and you evaluate tape and you look at your guys, I know you're trying to grab some things out that are positive, some things that you're doing better. You've got a young team. You've got some inexperienced guys, some guys that are smaller than some of the opponents that you've even faced in the early going. But what are you grabbing out that's been positive here in the first few weeks?
Well, a couple things is we are getting better. I mean, it's hard to say that when you're 0-3 that you're getting better, but we are. Our kids are making more plays. We're doing better at our blocking assignments, and we're making less mistakes. The problem is we're making mistakes still in key situations, and so that's something we got to work on. Our special teams were a little bit better last week than they were the week before. Our offense was much better last week. We're blocking a little better. We're hitting holes better. We're throwing passes and we're catching things better. Defensively, we're getting off blocks. We're flying to the ball. We get more, So we are getting better. It's a process.
When you look at the last 3 weeks, you face Lincoln, you lose to Lincoln, you lose to Spearfish, and then a tough loss to Sturgis. When you look at what your guys need to do better, are there some things you look at, whether it's the secondary, whether it's, protecting the quarterback? What are some things that are jumping out to you saying, we got to get this righted and I think we can get on our way to being better?
Well, and we'll go back with just the fundamentals. It's all, it's about blocking and tackling. We still missed some tackles last week. Blocking, last week when we scored and when we held them, we controlled the line of scrimmage. People don't give those 5 guys on offense and the 3 or 4 guys you play on defense in the trenches much. They don't get their name in the paper much. But if they're not getting it done, nothing usually happens anyplace else, because on defense, your linemen are getting pushed back in your backers. They got down blocks and on your backers. Offensively, the running backs don't have holes to run to. The quarterback doesn't have time to throw the ball. And so we got to make sure that we're solid on our assignments and alignments and doing things fundamentally correct up front, and then hopefully our skill players can, like we had Taylor Buss had 150 yards rushing, and that tells me that we, at times when we're making our blocks, we were getting off the block, we were getting to the backers. We just got to do that on a more consistent basis.
I do want to ask you about these kids. They're 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, and you're dealing with kids that are up and down. Some coaches say sometimes these kids are resilient. They can bounce back after loss and come right back with confidence. Do you have to keep these guys' confidence up here in the early going?
Well, I think you do. I think, that's part of our job, is to keep them understanding that this is a learning thing. And we try to tie it into like real life situations. It's like no matter how hard you work, sometimes in real life you don't get the bonus. You don't get the raise. So you just got to, there's no guarantee. You got to come to practice every day and you got to get better, and hopefully things turn out because you're working on things, trying to do things right in practice. You're getting better, and hopefully those pieces, all those little pieces come together and you win a game, and you're moving in the right direction.
Stevens head coach Paul Ferdinand joining us on Game Time. When you look at the balance of your offense, let's just look offensively. Like you said, Taylor Buss, I thought, had a good game against Sturgis running the ball, and your quarterback McLaughlin threw a couple, looked pretty good at times, ran one in. Do you have a good balance? Do you like the balance offensively, passing and running the ball?
We still got to get better. Part of that issue is, if you're going to pass the ball, you got to give the quarterback time to throw the ball. And running the ball is the same thing. You got to get off your blocks. We're not exactly where we'd like to be, but part of that is dictated. We had some penalties. It kind of dictates what you can do in certain situations. Where you're at on the field also. So we're not exactly where we'd like to be, but that's something that's coming. Every game we're getting a little bit better, I think. We're, like I said, we got new people back there, and it's like what fits, because you got different kids playing than we had last year. So it's not like we're going to throw the same stuff at you, because some kids are better at certain things. So we got to try and find their strengths and work on attacking the strengths where we can get the job done.
You take on Sturgis. It was their home opener, and these guys, they have some younger guys as well, and somebody was looking for that first win. They go up 21-3. How surprised were you by that? And then you guys corrected the ship and almost win that ball game, but getting down 21-3, obviously a big hole you don't want to start with.
Right, no, and you don't want to start with it, but that was one of those the pluses. Hey, our kids could have just said, hey, here we go again, and we're down big, and it's like, hey, let's just fold the tent. And our kids kept battling. We made some plays, stayed in the game mentally, and we had a chance. And so that's a positive, is that we know that we're not going to quit, and we talk about playing for each other and playing for your team, and that was a good thing there. And I think that we take that now. It's like, hey, if we just keep hanging in there, we don't give up. And if you look at our season so far, most of our touchdowns have been given up on big plays. I think we couple. Okay, you run it down to the one, and then they score a 1-yard run. That's really set up by the long run that got them to the one. So, if we just got to get rid of giving up the big play consistently every single play, and we're going to do good things.
I do want to talk to Stevens head coach Paul Ferdinand about the matchup coming up. It's Sioux Falls O'Gorman. Sioux Falls O'Gorman looking for their first win, but their schedule has been tough. There's no doubt about it. We'll be right back with Stevens head coach Paul Ferdinand here on Game Time on Black Hills TV.
You're watching Black Hills Television, Channel 18.
Have you ever found that sometimes you just can't reach where you need to go? Via Media offers affordable local television advertising on major cable networks to local, regional, and national businesses. Let Via Media extend your advertising reach. At Via Media, we make sure your advertising reaches your target. Via Media. More of the big picture.
As a parent, you're always sharing your money with your kids, and they're now 24 and 18, and I'm still doing it.
We'd earn 10 cents, 5 cents, that all add up to be a couple dollars, each week. And my dad would say, okay, now here's how you got to spend that. You got to save 10, you got to give 10, and the rest you can spend.
So my mom used to offer me 5 cents for every weed that I would pull from the yard. I definitely did not earn very much money.
Welcome back into Game Time here on Black Hills TV, presented by Knology. I'm joined by Paul Ferdinand, head coach of Rapid City. Stevens coach. We've talked about the first few weeks, things not going exactly the way you want, but now you get ready for another week, and you said you have to have the kids bounce back. You got to get to keep their confidence up, and you get a team in here that hasn't won a game, but I look at them over to the east, Sioux Falls O'Gorman. That's a rarity for me to say they haven't won a game 3 weeks in, but they've played arguably 3 of the top teams in the state.
Yeah, they've probably played 3 of the top 4 teams other than themselves in the state. Yankton's 3-0, I guess, but they haven't played Yankton, but they played Washington, Link. They played Washington, Brandon Valley, and Roosevelt, and so all 3 of those teams, I think Roosevelt's the only one that's 2-1, I think, at this point in time. So
when you look at O'Gorman's ability, they always have speed. They don't have a bunch of size. Usually, they're not the biggest team you'll run into, but Steve Keeter, their head coach, has a system. They run that double wing. They run a lot of sweeps, dives. They run the option. They don't pass a lot, but it seems like that system, those kids have known it for a while, and it sure seems like he gets a lot out of each player.
Right, and they've run their system since the 7th grade, so their kids are very familiar with it. But they're very strong. They're not overly big. Usually, like last year was one of the rare years. I think they had a 290-pound nose tackle, which is rare because usually they go with the little quicker, stronger guys. Their line probably averages around 220 or something like that, usually 200 to 220, and they just use speed and down blocks. And that's one of the things we tried to change. When we changed our system, we were in a straight I, and we went to a little bit more of the wing T to try and, because we're not as big as we have been in the past, to try and give our kids a chance to be more successful instead of trying to just drive block kids when you're giving up 50 to 100 pounds. You got to try different things, so we try to down block and pull people around to get angles and things like that to be more successful.
How has this wing T kind of helped your guys? How does this offense, your offense, match up against an O'Gorman defense? Because even though O'Gorman's not big, overly big, as we've all seen through the years, they're just fast. They shoot the gaps, they blitz, and they tackle well.
They come hard, and what we got to do is we got to get to our blocks. We got to stay in our blocks. We have manipulated the wing T a little bit. We went back, run the I formation with those same blocking schemes to try and get us going downhill, to give us a little bit more forward momentum, rather than, because it's a little easier to tackle a guy going laterally than it is north and south. So that's one of the adjustments we've made. We tried, opening up a little bit more to spread it, and that helped us a little bit last week. We started throwing the ball, opened up the run, and that's what we hope to do this week. We're going to have to, make some blocks at the point of attack, get some first downs, move the ball down the field, keep our defense off the field a little bit. We don't want to give them a short field. So, our kids got a lot of work to do, I think we're capable of getting that done. We gotta keep going hard every single play. We just can't take plays off. We need all 5 guys working on every play.
Is it something you focus on this week in practice? Because you talked about you've been giving up the big play, and with O'Gorman, there's a tendency to do that because they'll run sweep, dive, sweep. They're lulling the defense to sleep, and then all of a sudden a little play action or a little option start, and then a pass over the top. There's a tendency to kind of lull yourself to sleep because it's kind of smash mouth for a long time. What do you tell your guys?
Well, it all goes back to alignment assignment. You know that out of certain things, they're going to run certain. Everybody has a job on every single play. I think with O'Gorman, you're successful when your guys do their job on every single play. I mean, you like you said dive, ISO, count, power, trap, lead, quarterback, sweep. You forgot the counter, you forgot the off the short, the ISO to the weak side. They got the little where the quarterback pulls and hits the tight end on a flag route. They got the where they'll run 3 guys, they'll flood a zone off there. It looks like their sweep, where they're off tackle or sweep, or the old team right, team left stuff, that they'll throw the ball off that. So our kids got to read their keys and do their job. And we remind our kids every single day, we don't want you to be thinking out there. We want you to be, okay, it's 1st and 10. Here's what they are. What are they, and what are the plays? Because there are certain plays that they run out of certain formations, and everybody has an assignment. So if you line up correctly and you do your job, then everybody does their job. We can be successful, but we just can't. Where we've run into trouble a little bit is we'll 3 or 4 guys or 4 or 5 guys will do their job, and 1 or 2 guys will not do that. So we just got to work on getting better every single play, working at doing your assignment.
I know you guys are coming off of a loss to Sturgis, a tight loss, and I wonder how you use that here, because it was 21-18, but you did get your offense going a little bit. You got some scores. You moved the football. Is that something that's a positive that you take in?
Oh yeah, I mean that's like, hey, we can do this. We just got to do it more consistently. We can't wait till the second half to get it going. We got to start in the first half. Come off the ball the first play, and every single play, listen to the count, make sure we know the count, make sure we know the play call. And then just go and leave it out on the field. I mean, you can't, sometimes it's out of your control, but if you play hard, you leave it all out on the field, you can be good about your effort.
I've asked the other coaches this, and I'll ask you. The Rapid City coaches have all their sons playing. They're coaching their sons. Wayne Sullivan has his son at quarterback, and Coach Bakula has his son in running back / slot. I talked to you about how you coach your son. What's that like for you?
Well, I think it's interesting because, their expectations are a little bit harder. This is my second son that I've coached, actually. They know that there's certain expectations of them, and it's sometimes you're a little bit harder on them because of the expectations. Everybody's like, well, hey, you're playing this, and we just tell them to go out and go hard. Go out and go hard, and you'll hopefully do the job. And if you're not doing the job, we'll get you out of there. And that's kind of the way I look at it. Is like, I don't really treat my son other than the fact that we have to go home together, and I don't talk about what they did or whatever too much at home, just because they already get it. So we just go on, move on. Hey, how'd it go? Doing okay? You got everything okay? All right, let's go on. I might make a few pointers, but other than that, when we leave practice or whatever, we don't watch extra game film together, because it's like, they're my son longer than they're going to be my football player.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first father-son coach relationship, but definitely an interesting relationship when you're in battle together out on the football field and you're talking football a lot. Since you're the head coach, I'm sure you have to step back a little bit. I do want to let you run with this. Sioux Falls, some of the big schools there are going to go to 11 AAA, and that's going to include Rapid City Stevens, Rapid City Central next year. So I know that's a ways off, but this is the first time we've had you on the show. What's that going to be like in your mind? Is that a good thing to have the 8 teams and 11 AAA?
I think it is, in the concept that I think, for example, it doesn't really affect the bigger schools, the top 8. I think what it does, it's probably mainly for the smaller AA schools that were, if you're a Huron or you're a Douglas and you got to go up against schools that are 6 times larger, I think it's in their advantage. To us, we play pretty much the same schedule, so it really doesn't change our schedule. Yeah, we're no longer in a conference. I mean, this is the last year of the GDC, but for us, we still have to get ready every single week, and we can't just. The biggest thing for us, when we're still working on it, is our kids have to understand that high school football today is more like college football was about 10 years ago, where you don't just wait till the season to prepare. You start you know, what you do in the off season affects how you do during the season, and we're still working on getting that through to our kids. And you know, that's where it's all going to begin. And you know, we want to be moving in the right direction. So we're coaches. We have people in the weight room every single day, you know, throughout the year, and we're hoping to convince more kids that, you know, we want to be successful. So that starts there, because we got to get stronger, we got to get faster, and we got to, you know, it's not just when you start in August.
Rapid City Stevens taking on Sioux Falls O'Gorman coming up on Friday. Head coach Paul Ferdinand. Coach, one last thing before this matchup. Do you try and get the run established with Taylor Buss? He had over 150 yards, and you try and get him going early against an O'Gorman team that obviously is going to provide its challenges.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do both. I mean, you got to see what they're giving you, and it's like, okay, if they're giving us the run, we're obviously going to try and set up the run, but we're going to need to throw the ball to kind of stretch them out a little bit too. You know, it's one of those things, you can't just do one without the other in 11 AA. You got to be able to do multiple things.
Good thing we have good football once again Friday. I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. Stevens back in action, taking on O'Gorman. Head coach Paul Ferdinand. Coach, I appreciate you coming in.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching Game Time right here on Black Hills TV, presented by Knology. We'll be back next week with another edition, a weekly rundown of high school football here with Nate Brown in the Black Hills.
You're watching Black Hills Television, Channel 18.